Hey guys, this is the Wiggleman and welcome to Wiggle's Miniature Workshop. Today we're going to be painting this amazing Lilith statue from Diablo 4. The sculpt was originally by Eddie the Cross 3D. You can find him on CG Trader. I've put my soul into this project, so I'd super duper appreciate it if you could give me a subscribe and a like as well, just to help support the channel. So starting off straight away, we're just laying down some initial skin tones. The entire inspiration for how I wanted to paint this statue was from the kind of Baroque-esque concept art of Lilith and Inarius that was released well before the release of Diablo 4. And I really wanted to kind of go for a lot of kind of light to dark contrast kind of reflects the duality of the character. It all sounds a bit pompous, I know, but I always like to kind of challenge myself with new painting styles, trying something different, trying something new. And to be fair, painting this way ended up leading to a lot of happy little shortcuts because you're only really focusing on a small area of the model for the intense detail. So around the face, around the horns, around the chest, kind of the armor that she's wearing. Below that, the techniques that I used for painting her were very simple stuff. So as we're getting the initial layers done, if you've been subscribed to this channel for the approximate year that we've been running now, you might have noticed something different. I've changed the name. Originally I named the channel Loot Hoarder. The initial goal was to 3D print and paint up Loot Studios miniatures, busts, things like that. Unfortunately, I had a bit of a, I'd say, falling out and displeasure of Loot Studios. I found out that they were using my own images of work that I'd done, photos that I'd taken and uploaded just to show people. They were using that for promotional purposes. I have had a long back and forth with their support department, and I just came to the conclusion that I don't want to kind of support that company anymore, because if they'd have just asked, that'd have been fantastic. I'd have been chuffed to bits, but there was no permission asked. There was, yeah, it just felt pretty scummy. On top of that, the difficulty of just cancelling your subscription to Loot Studio as it is, it makes them as a company feel very dubious to me. Now, I'm not looking to start any shade or start any crack or anything like that. I just think that they should kind of give the artists that they are effectively stealing the work from for their own self-promotional purposes, they should give them a bit of a due. You know, give them a shout out, ask to work with them, things like that. So yeah, I still have a big back catalogue of Loot Studios miniatures that I would like to print and paint eventually. I just don't think I'm particularly going to be doing anything with their newer stuff that's coming out moving forward. So I hope you all understand. Again, when I emailed them, I did say to them, I'm not looking for any compensation or anything like that. I'm not looking for money. I just think it would be appropriate to ask for someone's permission before you use their work for your promotional material, because it would mean the world to them. It wouldn't mean the world to me. Just not when it's been done on the sly. That feels a bit grubby. So enough waffling about that drama. So if you've been paying attention to actually what's going on in the video so far, you'll have noticed that Lilith has been primed black once again. Unfortunately, I did not get a lot of footage of the masking process. So I used a silicone, liquid silicone mask. I used that fluid around the chest, around the face, around the hands, basically over everything that I've just painted. I was using a new type that I've never used before. Previously, I used Humbrol's liquid masking putty. It's kind of a lavendery, like purpley colour. This new one was Winsor & Newton's masking fluids. For anyone who's not used it before and is interested in using it, big top tip from me: it is extremely runny compared to the Humbrol liquids latex solution. So you have to be very careful when you're using it, because otherwise you'll end up masking areas that you don't necessarily want to mask. And as such, you can see here, this is my attempt at trying to take the mask off. Always, if you do use a silicone masking putty or fluid when painting miniatures, always make sure that you apply a layer of varnish below, because otherwise it can peel up without the varnish. Your paint job can peel up without the varnish. But this Winsor Newton stuff, this was quite tricky to get off compared to the Humbrol stuff as well. I can see its applications. I think I'd probably stick to the Humbrol stuff for the majority of the work that I do, but for very, very precise areas where you do need kind of that viscousness of the masking fluid to get into all your nooks and crannies, I think that it does have its uses. So starting to layer down some of the metallics. This was a bit of an experiment on my part with Vallejo air color. Is it air color? Be right back. Hang on 1 second. I'm back. It was Vallejo metal air color. So if you've not used this stuff before, it's fantastic. It's one of the best metallic paints on the market in regards to acrylic metallic paints. The only ball ache of using it is that it requires reactivation like every minute or so when you've got it on the palette. What do I mean by that? Constantly re-stirring your paint, making sure it's alive. But other than that, it is extremely thin. It goes on pretty much in one coat. It's gloriously smooth and gives a really, really nice metallic finish. So here, for Lilith's kind of burnished gold armor, I took the gold and the gunmetal color, mixed them together in a 1-to-1 ratio, and that gave a really, really nice kind of, well, exactly what I needed, kind of this old gold kind of feeling to the armor. And if you happen to collect Black Legion Chaos Space Marines, this would also be a perfect recipe for any of the metallic trim on your Chaos Space Marines. So moving on now, I stopped on the armor for a bit because I was a bit worried about how the face was going to look after the how difficult it was to peel off the masking fluid from the chest. So we gave it a go, and actually I do believe it came out pretty much all right. There was a couple of speckles of black primer still on her, but I think those were flakes that had flaked off while I peeled it off and got stuck on the model. Fortunately, I was managed to work with that because they were very much around kind of her eyebrows and the top corners of her eyes, where there are like marks from her horns and things like that. Off camera, I also sprayed a bit of the the highlight skin tone around the tops of her horns, just to reinforce that transition between kind of the skin and the horns. Sadly, I lost that footage because I was having a lot of heating problems in my shed at the time. So, with kind of the black dress all based out, the skin based out, the metallic armor based out, I felt the model was still lacking a bit of color. Now, looking at some pieces of art, the kind of lapels, the dangly bits on her dress, that's what I'm going to call them going forward, were red. Not a very bright red, kind of a deep scarlety red. So kind of trying to continue the theme of light to darkness from top to bottom, I decided to try my hand at stippling with a dry brush, which I've not really done before on a miniature. I think the final result came out pretty nice. I started off with a mixture of a very kind of like a beastly brown mixed with, I'd say 2 parts black, 1 part beastly brown. Stippled that on and then started stepping up in shades, moving in the direction of red. The higher I got up the dangly bits. So here I move on to just a pure brown. Initially, I was a bit worried that I thought it was going to be a bit too stark. But again, for the final effect, I think it kind of tied it all together very, very nicely. So moving on now to blocking out the rest of the metallics. Once again, if you've made it this far into the video, then maybe you like me, maybe you like the work I do, and that does mean a lot to me. Please, once again, if you're not subscribed, please do so. Me like number go up, quite frankly, and we had a bit of a slow start to the year this year, and I hope this video kind of gets us back on track a bit. So now we're blocking out the rest of the metallics that I skimped out on earlier, just to make it all tie together a bit more and get it ready for the next stage. Using these Vallejo game color metallics, sorry, these Vallejo color metallics, there we go, said it right. Again, it's a double-edged sword because they are absolutely fantastic paints to use with acrylics. However, they are super duper runny, and you will see over the next, well, I'd say 5 minutes or so, I think this took me, when I'm painting in the trim around the dangly bits of the model. Oh boy, did I go over the edge quite a lot. But I did manage to save it and recover it. And also, just as a side note, watching back over this footage now, this part's really satisfying to watch. I don't know what it is about it, it's just very satisfying to watch. Right, now we're entering the very, very happy little accident stage of the project. So at this point now, I'm peeling off the silicone mask on the hands. Hands are always difficult when it comes to using silicone masks. You don't really want to mask things that where it wraps around, you know, like a finger goes around the circumference of a finger, because that makes it a pain in the arse enough as it is to pull it off. Unfortunately, I just could not, for the life of me, no matter how hard I tried, get the mask off the fingers of the model. So, what did I do? We'll find out later. We'll come back to that. Don't you worry. But yeah, I was a bit gutted at first. But this is kind of the best part about being a mini painter is you find something during the project where you think you let yourself down, and it's all about just learning to recover and learning to correct your cock-ups. So, when things go wrong, we throw Nuln Oil at it. Technically, this isn't Nuln Oil that I'm using, it's Vallejo's Black Wash, but Nuln Oil would do the job just the same. It's always important to remember when you're using it over metallics that you will lose the kind of the sheen, the glossiness of your metallics. So it's quite important to go back over it afterwards. So why am I just covering her in Black Wash? Well, twofold. We've got the problem with the hands, and to be fair, it's quite hard to see in the footage here, but where I'd kind of spilled over the trim onto the fabric with the kind of darkened gold paint, the plan was to go around that trim with the black wash to not only kind of add the depth onto the model, but also cover up where I cocked up. Now obviously a black wash will dull everything down on your models, so after a bit of feedback from my friend Maranka, what's up, I kind of decided to pump the red back up a bit on the dangly bits. So I just took a light glaze of scarlet reds and just went over kind of the top areas of all of her dangly bits. I've got to stop referring to her dangly bits. If someone could tell me what the actual what that actual thing is, like her sporran, that is the closest thing I can equate it to as someone who has a mother who lives in Scotland. Yeah, I don't really know what it's called officially. Yeah, someone tell me, please. And with that, I then begin to re-highlight all of the metallics. This time I am using a 1-to-1 mix of Vallejo metallic color, metal color, aluminium, and the gold that I had used previously, just to give it a next step in terms of highlighting, as well as bringing back that metallic glossiness to the model. So, on to the wings now. I was humming and hawing about how I was going to go about the wings. Eventually, I decided on kind of bony wing bones and black wings themselves. I know in-game, well, to be fair, if you've been paying attention, I've already painted her eyes the wrong colour, but also in-game, her wings are more of a kind of a fleshy, a dark browny, fleshy colour. But that, I don't know, I was looking at these wings as more of a framing device for the model, and considering we've got kind of the lower portion of the model as dark, the upper portion as light, I'd quite like the left and right portions to be dark as well, to kind of draw all that attention into the face. So I use pretty much my standard, my go-to bone painting technique, which is starting off with kind of a medium to dark, well, a medium brown, I'd say, and then moving into a khaki, and then moving into kind of a very, very kind of an off-white, yellowy off-white colour. You'll see later on when I come to doing a bit of brushwork on the wings, I wasn't happy, but I'll bring up how I got around that when we get there. So this is the next bit we're going to go super duper quick through, because guess what? I painted the wings black. I just used straight up black. And it took a bit of time, but I painted them black. Let's go. So once the wings are dried, I stuck the wings onto Lilith's back, and then I began to do a bit of brushwork for the highlights on the bony bits of the wings. I wasn't really happy with how it was going while I was doing it. It was nowhere near thin enough. It was coming out, the brush strokes were coming out far too obvious, I think is the best way to put it. So again, it was one of those where I felt like I was potentially ruining the project at the last hurdle, and it was a bit heartbreaking at first, but then I had a thought, a sit down, and made an attempt to correct it. So, to correct it, I just threw some AK Interactive Rust Streak paint onto the model, and then I just simply wiped off excess with a Q-tip or a cotton bud stick if you live in the UK. And that pretty much gave me what I was hoping for. It dulled down the transitions, it tied it all together a lot better, and I think it did in its own way add to the final piece. We're getting close to the end now, nearly the big reveal. One more time, I'd just like to say thank you very much if you've made it this far. Thank you for sticking through this video. Please, once again, like, subscribe, comment. I do read all the comments because I only get like one a video. And I tried to respond to the majority of them. If you're wondering where to find this file, I will link to it directly in the description. And yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful day, wonderful afternoon, wonderful evening, wherever in the world you are. And thanks for watching. Goodbye.
I don't know if you would have chosen to stand beside me in this new world, Rathma. But I would have saved your place, just the same. And now, all that you might have been has been stolen from me.